don't want to damage the beef. Hello, welcome in. Hello. We're going to be watching more of the Lockpicking Lawyer. This time I was recommended to check out his April Fool's videos. I don't know what he's going to be doing as an April Fool's, but I'm excited to see it. Also, if you would like to support the video, giving it a thumbs up is really good, and as well as commenting. Today, the comment of the day is your favorite type of law. Let's get started. He has a few April Fool's videos. So let's start with the oldest one, which was 7 years ago.
This is the Lockpicking Lawyer, and what I have for you today is one of the most treasured cylinders in my collection, and one that I don't often share publicly. In fact, I normally only show it to my wife. It goes by many different names, but my favorite is that used by the French, so that is what we will use today. It is le coq. Now, I have had this cylinder for literally as long as I can remember. In fact, I vividly recall playing with it all the time when I was younger. And you can see from the condition that this cock has seen some hard use over the years. If you're familiar with cock cylinders, you may be thinking right about now that mine is a little on the small side. And it's true. This is only about 2.35 inches long, which makes it the smallest cock that I have ever seen. But even so, it never fails to put a smile on my face, and I've come to terms with the fact that I'll probably never have a bigger one. Now, manipulating the cock, like most other cylinders, does require a deft touch. With too much or too little force, nothing will happen, and likewise, you need to know exactly where and how to twist and push if you're going to be successful. But with all the time I've spent with this cock over the years, I have become...
He's very familiar with it.
...a true master at manipulating it. So let me show you how it's done. I like to grasp the cylinder firmly with my left hand, wrapping my fingers tightly around it. And with that same hand, I apply a clockwise torque. Now that torque is pretty firm at first, but during the course of the manipulation, I tend to subconsciously vary and pulse the pressure depending on how it feels.
Oh no!
With my other hand, I start at the tip of the cock and slowly tease the tips of the pins up, using a firm pulsing motion. And I like to work my way towards the back of the cock and then repeat those motions over and over again until we get the desired result.
I don't know how he recorded this with a straight face.
So let's see if we can do that right now. Now, I normally narrate when I do this, but when I manipulate this cock, I tend to lose my concentration. So, we're not going to do that today.
Lockpicking ASMR.
And there we go. It tends to catch me by surprise every now and then, but I'll tell you, it never gets old. So normally, I'd take this apart right now to show you what's inside, but the prospect of permanently damaging my cock is frankly unthinkable, so I'm not going to risk it. That means that's it for today. If you do have any questions or comments about this, please put them below. If you like this video and would like to see more like it, please subscribe. And as always, have a great April 1st. Bye-bye.
Oh my God! 6 years ago.
This is the Lockpicking Lawyer, and about a year ago, I showed you my absolute favorite cylinder, this well-used, albeit somewhat short cock. Now, if you'd like to see more of my cock, I'll leave a link to that year-old video in the description below. But today is all about the favorite of Mrs. Lockpicking Lawyer. And while she does like my cock, it is not her favorite.
Oh!
Her favorite is one that she actually had even before I knew her, though it never got any use.
Oh, wait, I need to put closed caption on.
Until after we met. At least that's what she tells me. If you saw the title...
doesn't know doesn't kill him, right?
For this video, then you know that it is, of course, her beaver. Now, I have been avidly interested in beavers since I was a teenager. But over the years, no two beavers that I've ever seen have been exactly alike. So let's take a closer look at my wife's beaver.
Oh, it looks like the ones you could find at the pool.
The most obvious feature is the large opening in the center. But if we take a closer look, we'll see something that a lot of guys miss. There's a small hood-shaped feature at the 12 o'clock position. If you're going to manipulate a beaver, you're going to have to give that area special attention. Another notable property is the wrinkled surface all around the main opening. Not all beavers have that. In fact, I have another beaver that I keep on the side. My
side beaver!
wife doesn't know about this one, but let's take a look at it.
It's so smooth!
You'll see that this one is perfectly smooth on the outside. That's actually pretty common on the newer beavers.
Oh, he has a younger model?
So let's hide this one away and then see what it takes to get into my wife's. Now, from experience, I can tell you that a generous squirt of lube will make this process go much easier. So let's do that now.
Gotta get that WD-40 up in your beaver.
And we're going to work that in to get it very slick on the inside. Okay, now that it's well lubricated.
But you don't actually have the key if you're picking the lock.
I'm going to take out my tool. Now it looks a little bit on the big side. In fact, when my wife first saw it, she didn't think it would fit. But after that squirt of lube we gave it earlier, it should slip right in. But before I show you that, a word about technique. I'm going to
It's all about the technique.
be using a firm thrusting motion together with a small twist. Not everyone does it that way, but I find that technique very effective. Okay,
Once again, I don't know how he's saying this stuff with a straight face.
let's get started. So, as you can see, it is disappointingly fast and easy to get into my wife's beaver. In any case, that's all I have for you today. If you do have any questions or comments about this, please put them below. If you like this video and would like to see more like it, please subscribe and have a great April 1st.
I wonder if anybody has stupid comments. It is disappointingly easy to get into my wife's beaver. The fact that you're still alive after saying that is more impressive than the double entendre. Wife, you got lube, lockpick lawyer, pulls out WD-40. Deaf guy, that's a cool lock. Good video. Blind guy, Jesus Christ. 5-year-old one.
This is the Lockpicking Lawyer, and on this channel I've demonstrated how to penetrate some of the most secure equipment out there, usually using some very simple tools. But it's almost always done right here on my desk. It's a controlled environment that might not be equivalent to field conditions. So today I'm taking you on the road with me.
On the road?
You see, I just got a call from my ex-girlfriend who's having a problem. Her new boyfriend is apparently having trouble getting in her back door. It's really tight, and she told him to stop trying because all he was doing was pushing really hard, and she was afraid something would break. But she remembered that when we were dating, I used to go in through her back door all the time. This is a picture of her back door. She just sent it to me, and I
What a nice back door you got there, ma'am!
I don't see any reason why this should be a problem. Frankly, it looks looser than it was back when we were dating. So, while her boyfriend's at work, she asked me to come over and see if I could help loosen things up. I of course agreed, so long as I could get it on video and share it on this channel. So, let's drive over and see if we can get in her back door without breaking anything. Okay folks, here we are, and I have to say that my
Oh, that's a not so great looking back door there. You got some brown stuff on it.
ex-girlfriend's back door is far dirtier than it ever used to be back when we were dating. It seems to have been neglected pretty badly, but I'm actually glad to find it this way. So you can see why I always keep baby wipes handy whenever I do anything like this. So let's get one out and wipe all of this brown residue away. Okay, this is pretty dirty. It might be a 2-wipe job.
Gotta get that second wipe.
Okay, now that we have the outside just a little bit cleaner, it's time to flush out the inside as well. And because we need to lubricate this anyway, I'm going to flush out the main opening with a good bit of lube. We just need to be sure to keep a towel underneath that opening so we don't make a mess. Here it makes a lot of sense to be generous with that lubricant.
It's so dirty inside the keyhole.
Back doors tend to be neglected, so you can't have too much. Okay, we are almost ready, but before I go any further, I need to put on some rubber for my own protection. Now, depending on various factors, I should note that the opening could be in an awkward position. And all I have to say about that is deal with it. It's not uncommon, especially when you're going in through the back door. Now, I can't just shove in my tool. I need to be very gentle and wiggle things into position if I'm going to stand any chance of getting in. I think we're there. All it needs now is a firm shove, and we are in. Now you need to understand that just because I got in her back door doesn't mean that her boyfriend will be able to as well. So I need to spend some time working it in and loosening it up. But I'm gonna do that off camera, so that's all I have for you today. If you do have any questions or comments about this, please put them below. If you like this video and would like to see more like it, please subscribe. And have a great April 1st.
The fact that he can open the door quicker with his tools than I can with the right keys, frightening. I drastically underestimated the amount of innuendos that could be present. 4 years ago. Here we go.
This is the Lockpicking Lawyer, and over the years, I have tried mightily to interest Mrs. Lockpicking Lawyer in my lock collection. Unfortunately, I've had no success at all. Until last week, when she came home with this absolutely perfect example of a Johnson. And it's not just any Johnson, it's the extraordinarily rare 18-inch variant.
18-inch Johnson?
I did ask her why she was finally showing interest in locks, and all she would say is, unlike my 2.5-inch long cock, this 18-inch Johnson would be getting a lot of use. So, how does one use an 18-inch long Johnson?
That looks like a really old lock, though. Like a retro lock.
It's fairly simple. All you need to do is insert the tip of the shaft into this opening and press firmly.
Oh!
You'll note that while the shaft is fairly flexible, it's also quite hard. And that hardness is both intrinsic to the function and it greatly aids the insertion. Now, one thing I immediately noticed with my new Johnson is that no matter how hard I pushed, I wasn't able to stuff more than about 6 to 8 inches into the opening. If you try to shove...
How does he find these logs to make these jokes with?
it in any farther, you're likely going to do damage. You can, however, insert the Johnson in either the front or the rear opening.
Oh!
To get it in the rear, you flip it over, then insert the tip of the shaft, that's usually the hard part, and give it a solid shove to fully seat it. Once again, inserting the Johnson more than about 6 to 8 inches into the rear hole risks damage, though you may be able to get in a bit farther with proper lubrication. Now, as you might imagine, I was quite proud of my new 18-inch Johnson, And when I received it, I showed it to all of my friends and family, at least those who I could get to look. I was quite surprised when my father took me aside and revealed that he too had an unusual Johnson. In fact, one that's far more rare than my own. His, of course, is a slightly older model, which is generally built the same, with a somewhat flexible yet very hard shaft. However, my father's Johnson is a full 24 inches long.
24 inches! That's too many inches.
I can't even get it on screen. I've read about Johnsons this long, but never imagined I'd ever get to handle one. Now, when I first examined it, I noticed that my father's Johnson has a wide bulbous feature on the end of the shaft. Because of that, you can only shove about 2 to 3 inches of the shaft, really just the tip, into the opening. After that, it tends to get stuck. That said, it does seem to be very effective. So, I think you all can tell that I'm very pleased with Mrs. Lockpicking Lawyer's new acquisition. And much to my surprise, for someone who doesn't like locks, she also seems to be quite excited about my 18-inch Johnson. In any case, that's all I have for you today. If you do have any questions or comments about this, please put them below. If you like this video and would like to see more like it, please subscribe. And as always, have a great April 1st.
Oh my god! Oh my god! He didn't waste even one sentence. It was just punchline after punchline. And everything makes sense. This is peak comedy. Wow. My wife said from the next room, "What the fuck are you watching?" when she heard this. It makes so much sense this guy is a lawyer because he's able to say the most ridiculous thing while sounding completely logical and not breaking a damn sweat. 3 years ago.
This is the Lockpicking Lawyer, and what I have for you today is something that's really important to myself and Mrs. Lockpicking Lawyer. In fact, it's something she's been playing with since her teens, and she let me first use it on our 3rd date. So, I'm sure you've all gotten a good look and can clearly see that it is my wife's beaver. Now, I showed you her beaver a few years ago in video number 862, but I wanted to feature it again because as I read through the comments, I realized that many of you just don't appreciate how versatile a beaver can be.
People don't appreciate the beaver.
For instance, when they get their hands on a beaver, I know a lot of guys who just load it up as fast as they can and call it a day. But that is a big mistake. First, before you put anything in the beaver, you have to make sure all the appropriate parts are properly lubricated. Otherwise, you're probably going to do some damage.
Don't want to damage the beaver.
Then you need to give careful consideration to what you're going to put in the beaver. It is pretty common to see guys put balls like this inside the beaver. And while, like most guys, I do have a nice sack of balls, that's getting to be pretty cliche. A less common and probably healthier option is to put your nuts in a beaver.
Yay, did not know where he was gonna go with that, but I should have expected it. Also, those are almonds.
But again, it's not something that really appeals to me. Now, if you're just looking to have fun, probably the best option is to put toys into a beaver.
Again, I didn't know what I was expecting.
But a word of caution here. If you try to stick toys in a beaver and those toys are too big, it is possible, if not likely, that you're going to do damage. And just as bad, the toy can get stuck. So
you don't want that.
Before trying to stick toys in a beaver, always ask the owner for both permission and instructions. Fortunately, by our 4th or 5th date, my wife figured out that I knew my way around her beaver pretty well. So she gives me a lot of leeway here and actually encourages me to be creative. So while I do have a lot of options, my absolute favorite thing to put in my wife's beaver are banana-shaped treats.
I mean, I love artificial banana flavoring.
Now, obviously, this small package isn't going to fill up my wife's beaver, and it can be pretty awkward if you don't fill the entire beaver. In fact, it's usually better to have a little left over. So, today I am going to stuff my entire 15-pound banana treat package into my wife's beaver. Now,
That's so many bananas!
the first thing I need to do is take out my tool and insert it into this slit-shaped opening right on the top. Then I need to jiggle it around for a while. This part can be boring. Just jiggle while giving it a twist. You might not think that can do much, but if you do it enough, it'll turn this little slit-shaped opening into a large gaping one. And I think you can see just how wide I opened up my wife's beaver, and it is clearly going to be a lot easier to jam in this huge package. However, at my wife's request, I'm not going to show that part on camera, so that's all I have for you today. If you do have any questions or comments about this, please put them below. If you like this video and would like to see more like it, please subscribe, and have a great April 1st.
Keeping a straight face while recording this is a skill in its own. You'd think it's a joke, but the man is teaching us all the important bits. The fact that he did this in one continuous take without laughing is impressive.
This is the Lockpicking Lawyer, and just because you can get into something doesn't necessarily mean that you should.
Sometimes some locks don't need to be picked.
At least that's the specific advice that comes to mind today. You see, what I have for you today is something that many women consider to be the epicenter of their most intimate moments and thoughts. These go by several names, which range from clinical to downright inappropriate. Looking at these, I think we'll use the term kitty for obvious reasons. I have 3 kitties to show you. This one belongs to Mrs. Lockpicking Lawyer, and you'll notice it's a nice rosy pink and quite furry. You can't tell this on video, but it also has a nice fresh watermelon scent to it. This one belongs to a neighbor of mine, a very friendly girl who works as a dancer. You'll notice her kitty is even more furry than my wife's. But she's also decorated it with glitter. That's quite unusual. In my experience, you'll either find kitties that are furry or kitties decorated with glitter. Finding both together is rare, though I've heard it was a bit more popular back in the 70s. Even so, I understand this kitty is quite well used, so apparently it does have some appeal. This last kitty belongs to my ex-girlfriend, and unlike the first 2, this one is perfectly smooth on the outside. I understand that's becoming more popular these days. Also, unlike the first 2, this one is not pink on the outside. However, if we look carefully into these folds, we can clearly see it's pink on the
I love how the pages are folded over like that!
inside. That pink coloration on the inside is fairly universal. If we look into my wife's kitty, we can certainly see some pink in there. And moving over to my neighbor's kitty, well, that one's more of a purple color. I've never seen that, but I've heard that can happen with excessive use. Only a few people will ever get
that poor neighbor
inside of any particular woman's kitty, and that's because they're kept closed unless you first get into their hearts. Now, I of course have the key to my wife's heart, so getting into her kitty is fairly routine. I do it often, and it usually doesn't take more than a few seconds, though my wife does seem to prefer when I take my time. That said, when I first met my wife, I did not have a key and found getting in quite difficult. I had to figure out exactly where to touch and how to manipulate to get in. If I recall correctly, I spent a fair bit of time with my tool in this hole.
On another note, I used to have a diary when I was a kid. I used to have my own. And one time I lost the key. I did learn how to lock pick it so I could get back in. And I just kind of still kept locking it and just unlocked it via lock picking.
Strangely, it did nothing at all. But when I squeezed my tool into this tiny little crevice, it seemed to pop right open. So that's what I've been doing ever since. Similarly, my ex-girlfriend's kitty is also kept tightly shut unless you first find your way into her heart. I'm not sure if I remember exactly how to do it, but let's give it a try. I put my tool into this tight little hole in the bottom. And there we go. It took a little bit more time than it used to, but I suspect with some practice, I could be getting into this kitty fairly regularly. Okay, moving on to the kitty decorated with glitter. You'll notice that this one is not guarded by the owner's heart. When I first encountered a glittered kitty, I have to admit I tried every technique I could think of to get in, and nothing seemed to work. However, I noticed something strange that might help you if you ever run into a glittered kitty. When I put away my normal tool and took out a little bit of gold, it opened up surprisingly.
Oh no!
I still haven't figured out why that is, but let's give it a shot. Okay, as you can see, we got into that very quickly using some gold. One additional note, you'll notice that when I get into a kitty covered in glitter, always make sure that your tool is covered in rubber. Now, having shown you a few kitties belonging to women, the question arises, do men have something similar? Well, in fact they do, but they don't quite fit in on this channel because unlike women's kitties, the male equivalent is extraordinarily easy to access. I actually borrowed a few from friends of mine to show you.
Cock-a-doodle-doo!
You'll notice there's nothing stopping you from accessing any of them. I'm not sure why they're so different. One curious observation I had, though, is they're all about the same size, roughly 6 inches. I find that strange because comparing it to mine's about 8 inches. I always thought that was normal. I guess not. In any case, that's all I have for you today. If you do have any questions or comments about this, please put them below. If you like this video and would like to see more like it, please subscribe and have a great April 1st.
Oh my goodness. April 1st, the day one of the most wholesome channels goes totally off the rails. If you look carefully into those folds, you can see it's pink inside. Absolute slayed me. Which, these are such cool looking locks.
This is the Lockpicking Lawyer, and what I have for you today is a real hands-on job. I'm going to show you what it takes to beat my one-eyed monster. And as an added bonus, I convinced a friend of mine to let me play with his one-eyed monster on camera as well. Now, before we go too deep into this, I should note that there are obvious similarities and differences between my friend's one-eyed monster and my own.
His friend's one-eyed monster is, maybe a little infected?
Both are quite a handful and have a curved shaft, a large bulbous protrusion, and of course this small slit at the end. Both of them are also rock hard with a slightly soft covering on the outside. That's where the similarities end. Where mine is smooth and almost leathery in appearance, my friend's one-eyed monster is veiny, purplish, and has these small pustules or sores on it. I've never seen anything like those sores on my one-eyed monster, and my friend wouldn't tell me anything about how he got them, other than to say something under his breath about a girl named Karma.
Oh!
But enough said about that, because the question remains, how do you beat the one-eyed monster? As you might imagine, there are lots of different methods that I've tried to get mine to pop. I've even done it left-handed, but I'll show you the ways that I think work best, and those are rapid stroking and of course a slower probing approach. I'll show you the rapid stroking method on my friend's one-eyed monster, and we're going to use the well-known 3-step approach. Get a firm grip, establish a brisk rhythm, and the critical thing to remember is don't stop until it pops. I can't say that enough. Get a firm
Don't stop until it pops!
grip, good rhythm, and don't stop until it pops. Let's give it a try. just like that, it popped
So
in my
fast!
hand. Okay, now we'll try the slower probing approach on my one-eyed monster. This method emphasizes a more gentle application of force, but like the rapid stroke method, a firm grip is essential. Now this might take a little bit more time and teasing to get it to pop, but it is also very effective. Okay, I can tell we're pretty close. This should be popping in my hand at any moment now. And there we go. Now, if you want to beat the one-eyed monster even faster, there is the deep thrust method, which is exceptionally fast and effective. All you really do is jam your tool into the little slit and wiggle it vigorously. Of course, you're going to need a tool that can reach all the way in, and not everyone has that. Okay, one final method for beating the one-eyed monster, and this focuses on the shaft. For this, you need something that can wrap around the shaft, and then you push and twist around the shaft, and eventually, if you do it right, it will pop in your hand. All right, folks, as you saw, there are lots of ways to beat the one-eyed monster. And keep in mind that everything I just showed you can also be done left-handed. You just want to try something that feels a little different. In any case, that's all I have for you today. If you do have any questions or comments about this, please put them below. If you like this video and would like to see more like it, please subscribe. And as always, have a great April 1st.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Wow, that was that was not what I was expecting. But thank you for watching, and don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Bye.